Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Betty blue, rose, big black bubbles. Any insect, little gold. Betty bought a bit of butter, but the bitter better. Betty bought this bitter, so Betty bought a better, better butter.
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable.
man. You're on the wrong camera.
I know it.
It looks really cool on my screen, though.
I'm going to select USB.
Hello.
Hi, this is Jonathan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Good. Hal dropped off, but he should be joining us again shortly.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
That's
Thanks
my
for,
story. I'm sticking to it.
Coming on with short notice and all that. Let's see here. I'm just getting all my my ducks in a row here. La 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 la. Weird. How's it going, Jonathan?
It's going pretty well.
Awesome. How's work treating you?
It's going good.
Cool.
It's that whole getting toward the end of the year time.
Meaning things are winding down. I seem to recall that there were no, there were freezes.
Yeah, there are freezes.
Yeah.
It's not like a hard freeze, though. It's more like a frost.
sort of a frost. Okay, where is? Ah, there it is. I've got a recent episode thingy. What episode are we on,
This
Jonathan?
is 291.
Okie dokie. Oh, there was a question in the other IRC channel wondering where the Jeffrey episode was going to hit the airwaves.
As soon as I finish it. I hope it'll be very soon.
Garrett, is your last name 1 or 2 R's?
1.
Okay. All right, and then Jonathan, I am sharing you some show notes right now.
Beautiful.
And let me just clean them up a little bit for this particular chat. Alrighty. And we should have a few folks in the chat room.
What kind of keyboard do you have, Garrett?
I have a DOS keyboard. Why, are you hearing it? I didn't type anything.
I was hearing it earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's got those cherry blue MX switches. Cherry MX blue. Well, and I used to have my louder keyboard. I used to use my IBM Model M keyboards, which
Oh, yeah.
are now old enough to drink.
The buckling springs and all that.
Oh, they're the most awesome keyboards ever. The only reason I actually switched to this is because I was getting tired of using a USB to PS2 dongle because they're just not that great. And so I'm like, I finally had to cave and buy, and I got a couple of these on sale, so I picked them up. And they're not quite as loud, which is depressing, but they're almost as good. I'll try not to type. I do that an awful lot. I just start typing, I'm like banging away, and everybody's like, "What the hell was that?"
Is the building falling down?
I work remotely like 95% of the time, so I talk to people on calls all the time, and I think they're just getting used to it because now nobody says nothing. Well, and I'll try to remember to keep towards the camera because I got 6 monitors here, so I keep looking around.
Oh, right.
That is an impressive collection of monitors.
Well, they're 6 4K monitors, so I've got just under 50 million pixels here. Oh yeah, this is freaking awesome.
Wow.
What in the world are you powering that with? You must have like 4 video cards.
No, it's actually I'm getting away with 2. What are they? ATI or AMD 7850s.
Wow.
And it works just great. I mean, I don't, and if I play any games, I always just go down to one monitor, obviously, because there's no way I can power it. But yeah, I haven't had any problem with it. I have been looking at upgrading my video cards because each one's only got 2 gigs, and I've been to the point where I've been watching the memory on them, and I'm getting suspiciously close to hitting 2 gigs on them occasionally. So I'm thinking I'm going to get a couple of 4 gig cards and be done with it.
So what is the actual resolution for a 4K?
What is it? 30? It's twice 1080p, so it's 38. Oh.
Okay. That's a lot.
20 times 2 is 3840 by 2160. So essentially, I've got just under 50 million pixels in front of me. It really is awesome, I tell you. I used to have 8 monitors, but they're all like lower resolution.
So how many do you use, like actively, and how many are just like, here's my music?
Oh no, I got stuff on them all the time. As a matter of fact, it's quite crazy. I'm really happy actually with Windows 10. I'm running the latest preview, 9879, and I'm really happy because the ability to snap stuff into corners works really well. Like you can, it does a nice job of tiling stuff around. So I'm getting very happy with that. But yeah,
Are there keyboard shortcuts for that?
Not that well, yeah. So if you hit, what is it?
Like I know there's
Windows left and right.
Yeah.
We'll do it to the sides, and then if you hit Windows after you've got it pinned to a side, if you go Windows up, it'll put it up into that corner. And what's really awesome is that they'll also pop open a thing underneath in the empty space, and with all the other windows that you have left on the system that aren't snapped to something, and you can click on one of those, and it'll snap that one into that spot. So yeah, very nice. I'm getting used to that a lot. So, but
the only problem I really have with this build is it broke my ability to share my screen via link.
Oh yes, well, I've noticed that. Actually, what's weird is that I have a VM, and I was trying to share that to on the weekly meeting, and I couldn't do that. But I could share from my desktop. I could share I could TS into the VM, and I could share the program that was looking at the VM, and that seemed to work.
Oh, okay. I haven't tried that. I've only tried to share entire desktops. I haven't tried to share programs instead.
Oh, and I try not to share my entire desktop because I think that'd crash the internet. It's bad enough when I share just one screen or something like that, and somebody's like, I can't see anything.
Right? Yeah.
It scales it all down. So I try not to do that. That's why I try to have just a VM.
If I share a whole display, I know it starts, flashing, and I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping they fix that in an upcoming build pretty quick because that's getting awful irritating.
Yeah, I was hoping that was the fix that required you uninstall Office and reinstall it, but turns out that was not the case.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a real fix? That's a real thing?
Yeah, it's a real thing. They released that this week.
Fix that came out this week that won't install with Office. Like, really? Did you guys test this? Because it sounds like you didn't test it. I mean, at all.
We're like,
wait a second.
We want to get this out right now, so we know you have to uninstall Office and reinstall, but we think you should do it because it's that important.
That's okay. A couple of hours before the last WMF5 build went out, I realized that if you don't run OneGet first as administrator, because at the very last minute we changed the directory for picking up providers, and I realized that if you didn't run it at least once as administrator, it would crash before you could do anything with it every single time.
Oh gosh.
And so I was like, guys, I need to put in another patch. Oh, and I think that delayed the release at least a day. It's like one line of code. I'm like, oh yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get this thing started. It seems like our audio is working fine, I think. So let's, and there was something I was going to say, and it was related to the show, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Those of you in the chat room, thanks for joining us. If you have questions for the guest, whom I'll introduce in a moment, then please pipe up and put a couple hash marks in front, like so. So we will pull those out and make sure to portray your wishes and questions to the guest. Okay. With that, let's see. We're looking good. Tonight on the PowerScripting podcast, we are pleased to have with us Gary. Why did I say Gary? Garrett Serack from Microsoft. Welcome to the show. And no, I'm not going to do a retake. Garrett, how's it going?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It was really good to meet you, month and a half ago or so?
At the MVP that
Summit?
long already?
Something like that.
Feels like 3 weeks to me total.
Yeah. I mean, it's been busy. And, well, there were holidays. Everybody kind of stopped working a little bit, slightly.
Oh, I'll tell you why. It only feels like a couple of weeks because I crashed. I smashed up my car on the Wednesday night. During the summit.
I remember that.
And I've been without a car, and I'm waiting. They got it all fixed, except they're waiting on airbags from the manufacturer. So,
yeah. I actually recently had to go through that myself, and yesterday they totaled the car out.
That is such a weird situation.
Yeah, mine was I may as well just give you all the short version. So, on October 3rd, we're in a wreck. It was not a major wreck, but the other car was going 40 miles an hour, and they hit my bumper, and it did some damage. But looking at it, you're thinking, okay, that's a few $1,000s or whatever. Well, the shop fixes it up. It's a $10,000 estimate. Insurance covers it, of course. And I look at it, and before we take it home, and they're like, the paint's not right. And I look at it, and we complain to the guy, and he goes, okay, we'll fix it, no problem. And I look at it again, and it's still the same way, like slightly improved or something. And then I'll give him one more try. And then we're like, forget it, man. We're going to take it somewhere else. So we took it to another one of the approved shops for State Farm. And they said, and they like listened to me about the paint, but they were not even a minute into the conversation. They're like, the paint is the least of your problems. And then he points out a half a dozen things that were either done wrong or, were broken because of the repair. And it's just a big mess.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and then basically a month passes of me arguing with State Farm to get them to allow the second body shop to fix the work that the first guy did. And State Farm was just not budging, and they were saying that the work was done well enough or whatever. They approved the work that was done originally, and they wouldn't even look at it a second time. And then eventually they looked at it and they said, well, okay, maybe there's one thing that was done wrong, and we'll cover that, but we're not going to do this whole everything that the other body shop wants. And then more time passes, and Thanksgiving's here, and I need a car, and I had to rent a car on my own dime because State Farm I didn't have it on my policy because somebody made a mistake. But they said maybe they'll cover part of the rental. And I'm like, Jesus, guys. And then, so we get to, I go call my agent, which I should have done day one, but I didn't. I call the agent, and he said, first thing he did was he fired that, he's never going to send any work to that shop again, was the first thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second thing he did was he got on the phone to the claims office and the manager over there, and then the next day I got the call that my car was totaled out. So they went back and looked. The estimator went and looked at the car like they should have done a month ago, and decided that it was going to take another $10,000 to undo the work that was done, and that doesn't count if they may find other things that were done wrong that they just can't see because they haven't opened it up yet.
Oh, that's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, and then my wife was there today to pick up some stuff from the car, and the guy said, "Oh, hey, I never noticed this. Looks like your roof is buckled. That means that there's probably more damage that I didn't see before."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and in the meantime, State Farm is saying, "Oh, there's no safety concern. You should be driving the car this whole time. You shouldn't be wanting to rent a car."
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just terrible.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's talk about other things.
In a word, Allstate.
Moving on.
Allstate. State Farm is supposed to be pretty good, but anyway, I don't want to bore people who are listening to the podcast for not car insurance reasons. I don't know. Maybe people come to us for car insurance. I don't know. Anyway, Garrett,
you're tuning into car talk.
So before we get into the OneGet stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, let's see. Well, I'm Canadian, which is, the first problem.
Oh, Lord. Jonathan.
Yeah, another one of these guys. I joined Microsoft actually about 9 years ago. I was self-employed for ever as a consultant, pretty much almost right out of high school. And so Microsoft comes calling one day and says, "Hey, you want to work for Microsoft?" And I'm like, maybe, I don't know. And so went through the review process and whatnot, and came out and interviewed. And at that time, I was actually interviewing for a program manager position on the XML Web Services team. And Microsoft's interview process is really awesome. You go through 6 interviews in a day. Well, you do go through about 6 or more if you're going to get hired. If you only make it to 2 or 3, don't worry, they're not calling you. Anyway, I got through the first 5, and I'm like, there is no way I'm working for these guys. They are crazy, and I could never work for these people. And then the 6th interview that I went through was with the GPM of the group where I ended up working, which was actually Identity and Access. And he changed my mind completely, and so I ended up joining them as a community program manager for Identity and Access. And I was there about a year and a half, and I found out that Microsoft had an open source technology center, or at the time it was called the Open Source Software Lab. And I'm like, we have a what?
What year was this?
Hey, that sounds fun. Sorry?
What year was this?
Oh, that was back in 2007 is when I found out we had no SSL. And it just basically started. It was funny because the way I found out is actually there was a post on Slashdot one day about Microsoft had invited the Firefox developers to come to campus. And I'm like, ooh, I'd like to talk to those guys for something that I was working on. And so after that, I made it my goal to try and get onto that open source software lab. And so I actually managed to get hired onto that team as a community program manager. And oddly enough, I was actually right in the middle of the worst health problem I've ever had in my life. And I was getting more and more tired, and my brain was going, and it was almost impossible for me to get anything done. And I'm just from a career-wise, I'm just cratering. And I'd seen so many doctors, it hadn't even been funny. I think, thank God for the great medical coverage that we get from Microsoft, because I'd seen so many doctors, and they did so many tests, nobody could figure out what the heck was wrong. And so I finally, out of desperation, somebody said, why don't you go see this natural path? And I'm like, natural path, what the hell? So anyway, I go and see this guy. Turns out that he says, all your tests look good, but why don't we just try and give you a shot of B12? And so, boom. It turns out that I'm just disturbingly B12 deficient in a way that doesn't show up on tests.
Wow.
And so I started taking daily shots of B12 at that point. And all of a sudden, I'm like, my brain is exploding. It's working better than it has in years. And I go to work one day, I'm like, I don't want to be a PM. I want to be a dev. and
they're
my
like,
boss looked at me and goes, that's great, because you're a crappy PM. And so then he said, so fine, no problem. Tomorrow you start as a dev. And so it was like the biggest, directional change ever in a career at Microsoft, I think, instantaneous. And the first thing that we were working on at that point was getting things like PHP working better on Windows, because PHP on Windows in 2000, and I guess this would have been January 2008. At that point in time, PHP on Windows was so bad, you wouldn't run it for anything, at all. Because it would crash. It was the libraries that PHP were built with were literally a decade old. They had a zip file called libs.zip that they were passing around from developer to developer. Somebody put them together in 1998, and they were compiling with VC6. And 2000, and a decade later, they're using the same thing and building it the same way. And no wonder. And so started working with the community, and we got PHP working better, and went crazy on that. And then we started fixing up PHP apps, getting support for SQL Server, this, that, and the other thing. And it's just been a hell of a ride in the Open Source Technology Center. And at the time, it was very funny because at the time, the Open Source Software Lab was actually in Windows Server marketing. It was a marketing group, and it was designed to improve the appearance of how Windows was with open source software. But after a while, they just, and so at one point I had the distinction of being the only software developer in Windows marketing. Anyway, and then I actually worked with.
Was that a weird place to be? I mean, did they get it? Did they pay you like a software engineer scale and all that? Oh
yeah, it was still just it was like anywhere else in the company, except I didn't report to developers. It was kind of interesting. I mean, the upside about working in marketing is that budget for stuff was so easy. It's like, oh yeah, we want to go to this conference, no problem. Oh yeah, we need $500,000 for a crap ton of hardware. Hey, no problem. It's like, oh, this is great. Go to the product group and they're like, you want what? Yeah, we did we did things like the PDO drivers for PHP, and stuff like that, and that was. That was all me. And as a matter of fact, and then one of the things that I'd done there is I pioneered the ability for Microsoft people to commit code to like GPL software projects and stuff like that. Before I did that, they had never done that before. The first meeting I had on the subject I had 14 lawyers in the room and me. And I thought, geez, this is a bad start.
Yeah.
And it only took about 6 months to get them to go, okay, we think we're ready. And even then, it was just a terribly cumbersome process internally, but at least then it was like, okay, we can start pushing the stuff out. So hit about 30 projects in the first 3 or 4 months of that after we got the system working. And now open source and Microsoft.
Well, now there's a lot of open source proponents in the company, and have been, I know, some others kind of blazing the trail alongside you. Who are some of the folks you've been working with on that who we might have heard of?
So the group that I'm in, the Open Source Technology Center, we do stuff like, that I was in up until very, very, very recently. Was responsible for things like the Linux integration services, for Hyper-V, for the integration services for BSD on Hyper-V and Azure and stuff like that. And so there's all that work that we were doing. But oddly enough, we were all, the work that I was doing wasn't actually directly with a lot of people inside Microsoft. So, which is kind of funny when you think about it. So most of the people I worked with were obviously community people.
Okay, gotcha.
And then...
was there anything like a steering committee or any people that got together to figure out how to make open source work at Microsoft?
So there's lots of people that were involved in that process. So it started off with the OSSL was like the first bunch of us. Well, no, I got to say that the first person to do open source would have been in a meaningful way at Microsoft would have been Rob Mensching, who writes the Wix, which is the Windows Installer XML stuff.
Yeah, I think we had him on a long time ago.
Yeah, his pioneering work in there was getting them to actually allow him to publish the source code to that thing, which was completely unheard of. And so he started the ball rolling ever so slowly there. And then the work that we'd done was just, because we were working with LCA, the legal guys all the time on, making this easier and whatnot. And then more and more people started doing this. And, then there's, everybody wants to work on this stuff and, get more and more people on this. And it was just great, actually. It was a lot of people doing a lot of things with lots of parts of the legal and corporate affairs. That's LCA, and as time went on, things got a little easier as they started figuring out, well, how can we do this and whatnot. And then there's always pressure from the business, and really LCA's job is not to give you permission, but to tell you, yes, you can. We think we are in a legally acceptable place to do that. And so getting them all used to it was interesting. But now it's so great nowadays. So using open source software at Microsoft now, it's like, go ahead. You're not even asking permission most of the time. Most of the time, it's just like, hey, I'm doing this. Okay. and then of course now, and now when I'm with OneGet, I actually started this project and I said, okay, this is going to be open source to begin with, and we're putting it in Windows. And this is very unique that because most of the time when you develop software at Microsoft and put in a product, they're like, shh, don't say anything. Oh my God, everybody, they're always trying to nail down stuff. And I'm like, here's the rules. Number one, I'm telling them everything. I'm not going to design something up front and then publish my results. I'm going to basically go, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Anybody care? And
nice.
And so I'm still on the edge there. And then recently we did a big reorganization in Windows in Windows Server and System Center, what they call the WSSC, which is a part of the company, which is huge. And a lot of the people in the open source software center, because open source has basically permeated everything at Microsoft now and everywhere. We don't need a dedicated group for this. People should be working on things that are related to what they're working on. And so they did all of this work to reorganize stuff, and they're taking a look at what I'm working on, which was this. When I started OneGet, I said, "Here's this idea I have, and here's how I think we're going to do this." And they said, "Yeah, okay, let's start on that." And we'll come back to that in a bit. But I was still in the Open Source Technology Center, and then I'd work with some PowerShell people on a couple of things. And then when it came time to do the reorg, they said, "Hey, this guy really belongs over here." And so they said, "Yep, guess what? Today you're working for PowerShell."
Wow.
Which is funny as all heck.
So when did that happen? That you were working? So you're on the PowerShell team now?
I'm on the So there's the official, the big part of the organization that we're in is part of the management pillar, and the big part of that we're in is called the PowerShell. I want to say it's called PowerShell and Management or something like that. Management and PowerShell. I don't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, and then I'm on a sub team in there called PowerShell Community and Tools.
Oh, okay. Neat.
And you guess what we do?
You make tools for the community.
We make tools and community stuff. And so again, when they wanted me to join this team because they said, well, not only do you bring OneGet, which is really really heavily tied to PowerShell anyway. Mm-hmm. They said, we also want you to bring your skill at getting open source stuff done and process and stuff like that. And so they have a whole lot of plans for what they'd like to open source and all the stuff they'd like to be able to publish with that. And so they want me to help with that. And I said, hey, that's fine. And, just so you know, I don't do work without telling people. I don't have NDA inside of me, so I will tell everybody everything that I'm working on.
You're a great person to have on the show.
Oh, yeah, now it's like, woohoo, all secrets. Yeah, well,
it's funny
it's my
because
opinion that,
when I have like people from the PowerShell team on, like who we've had a bunch of people on over the years. They'll tell me, some things, and they'll tell me some things off the record, because I'm MVP, so maybe I'll know more than what I can say. But sometimes I'll ask a question, and I don't know if I'm going to get an answer or not, and then maybe I'll ask, and I won't get an answer, and I'll say, no problem, I understand. And then Jeffrey will come on, and he'll say everything. And it's
exactly.
Okay, that's all I got to do is ask him.
Yeah, if you ask the right person, so you got to get somebody who's been around long enough and not been playing by the rules the whole time, that they don't care if somebody gets mad at them. And I keep telling people, if I don't make somebody angry at me once a year, I'm not living close enough to the edge. And sadly enough, it's been well over a year since anybody even gave me any flack about anything I said. So
wow, then you need more B12.
Let's find something I can get into trouble.
So let's get into OneGet. So why don't you tell us what OneGet is, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'd also like to hear what was the original vision, because I assumed that it was something born out of the PowerShell team. I didn't know it was something the PowerShell team kind of absorbed.
No, yeah. So this started, my journey with OneGet actually started about, I want to say about a couple years back. So one of the things that actually the beginning of it started about 4 years back. I was working on one of the things in order to get open source software working better on Windows was I figured what we really needed was a package manager. And so I started working on a project to do that. And then NuGet came along, and so did Chocolatey. And it was clear that to me that I'm going to get screwed out of this because I can't write code fast enough. And what's worse is that, NuGet and Chocolatey solved part of the problem. And so they needed to be part of the solution. So I stopped. I went home one day and I thought, this is terrible because they're stealing my low-hanging fruit, because I was tackling the hard problems. And I thought, there's got to be a better way for this. And then I thought, screw it. I don't want any of these things. And I went back to work the next day and I said, we don't want to build a package manager. What we want to build is something you can plug package managers into. And I thought, okay, first of all, I got to finish and get the C++ stuff working on that I was really trying to get done first, which was getting C++ packaging done. So I quickly, over the span of a few months, wrote a tool to generate packages for C++, which was okay. I think I worked on it. I think I did too much too quickly, and it's a little on the complicated side, but at least it works. So after that, I said, we want to have this idea of a pluggable package management system. And so I come out and I spent a couple of months figuring out what this sort of thing could kind of look like and whatnot. And at the beginning of the time frame for Windows planning for what the current version of Windows 10, what's now Windows 10, I said, I need like 3 guys. We're going to do this, and here's how much we're going to build. We're going to build a native code, and then we're going to plug in all this stuff into it. And they said, that's a great idea. We don't have the resources for that. And if we'd have been in marketing, this would have been easy. But no, product groups, you gotta worry about budgets for some reason. So I said, and so I'm going back and forth and trying to figure out. And it got to the point where they said, you know what, we believe in this, and we want you to start working on it. But we're not going to get to ship. Obviously, if you're on your own, you're not going to be able to ship it in Windows, in the next version of Windows. But we'll ship it in the one after that. And I thought, well, that's better than nothing. And I went home and I thought, the only trouble is that you work on something for years at a place like Microsoft, and you're gonna get pushed off into obscurity. So I come back and I said, well, so what if we tried this another way? And at this point in time, we are like days away from having them go pretty much. This is what's going to be in the next version of Windows, and that's it, and you can't change that, or you take the act of Congress to do so. And so I said, what if all I did was provide just the interfaces that we could talk to, and so that we can plug in some package managers, like super lightweight. And I said, I throw out the idea of doing a native code. I'll just do one version of .NET and just run with it. And I first went and talked to Jeffrey about this, because if I can get him alone, I can talk with him for a good hour. And he's been, we've been batting these ideas around for a year or so up at this point. And he's like, hey, that's a great idea. Better yet, and this was like 6 weeks before build this year. This is back in March of this year, or late February. And he goes, what if you built just one package manager for that? And I said, oh, I probably, that's probably easy enough. What would you like? He said, well, can we build a chocolatey provider for that, or a chocolatey provider for that? And I'm like, yeah, I suppose. He says, can you do it in 6 weeks? And I'm like, what? And so he says, yeah, well, let's just get it, just get it working. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose. Sure. And at this point in time, like literally, it's been 48 hours since I thought about even starting it in this way and doing it in .NET and stuff. And so I said, yeah, sure, why not? So I go talk to my boss, and he goes, sounds great. I'll go talk to the people up ahead. You get started. And so literally that afternoon, I started working on the code, and that was the day 0 with OneGet. And so 5 weeks, and I had to have the first version of OneGet with the chocolatey provider in there, and that's what they tossed that into to the WMF release that went out at build. And it was like, okay, that was amazing. And I was killing myself doing like 80-hour weeks and just running. I got no tests on this thing, and of course, I'm writing a ton of code. I think the first build was about 15,000 lines of code, and it's been 12 or 14 days, and Jeffrey's like, I need to test something here. What's going on? You can't spring this on at the last moment. It's like, are you kidding me? So anyway,
so can you explain? There's a couple questions queuing up in the chat room, and I want to get this you to explain it in the right time here. That what is OneGet in its relationship to chocolatey and to package manager and other, so explain the concept there.
So OneGet is an API. Well, it's an API and some commandlets that allow you to plug in package managers in the back end. And the plugins can be written either in PowerShell, just as a PowerShell module, or they can be written as a .NET assemblies. And so rather than have one way of doing everything, OneGet allows us to just build these little providers so that it creates a consistent way of automating every type of software install, no matter what it's for, or how it's built, or what technology it's on. And so PowerShell Get, of course, is a module built by the PowerShell team, and it's both a OneGet provider, so you can use get package and install package and find package with it, and it also wraps OneGet and talks and uses it. That
sounds recursive to me.
And in a way it is, because it shares code, like it's based on NuGet, right? So PowerShell Get uses NuGet for its as a package, as one of its ways that it can install modules. And because we already had a way that we were going to put, be able to use NuGet in OneGet itself, I said, don't write a new way of consuming the same thing. We'll make it so that you can consume other package managers and use them, like chain them to use them, so they can basically plug in other backends to PowerShell Get. And so that's what we did between.
The scope of PowerShell Get is still limited to PowerShell modules or PowerShell artifacts, let's say.
Yeah, PowerShell Get will always be limited to PowerShell artifacts.
Yes.
PowerShell Get's purpose in life is just for PowerShell modules and scripts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. But OneGet, on the other hand, it's pluggable, and you've got a set of providers that provide that interface, and the providers can be written in either PowerShell code or managed code. I got it so far?
And absolutely, and eventually native code if that's desired. The purpose there was to make a plugin module, a plugin interface that we could plug in different things in the back end. And so you can write a provider right now in C# or in PowerShell, and essentially all that's needed for that is to fill in about 15 functions, and of which 2 are mandatory, and everything else is optional because some things don't do some things. Like some package managers don't have configurable package sources. Some package managers don't let you install from files. So if I made a provider for Windows features, well, it wouldn't have files to install. You just say, hey, putting all of these things in there. So package managers. So OneGet provides this interface for unifying all the package managers, no matter what they're for, how they work in the back end, so that we have one common set of commandlets and APIs too. So it's not just so that you can use this from PowerShell, but you can make a GUI tool that talk to the exact same set of APIs and say, hey, I want to be able to install anything. And so as we knock off providers, we are getting more and more and more functionality into OneGet as it is.
So talk to us about the providers that ship with WMF 5, whatever the latest drop was. Was it November, I guess?
So in box, you have PowerShell Get, and you have an MSI provider, which all it does is, so it doesn't have package sources. You can point it to MSI files and say, install that or whatnot. And there's an ARP provider that looks and add remove programs, and the ARP provider doesn't let you install stuff. All it does is let you inventory and uninstall things. And there's also a hidden provider called Bootstrap, and Bootstrap's purpose is to be able to download more providers. So things like Chocolatey and NuGet actually don't ship inside the WMF5. They are bootstrapped off the web live. So this allows us, and we're going to keep the number of providers down in box. Matter of fact, I think in the long run it'll be Bootstrap, PSGet, MSI ARP, and probably Windows Update. Oh, and MSU. And that's going to be all the ones that are going to be in box, and everything else will be bootstrapped off the web because we can add more on the fly. And when you run OneGet right now, you still get tab completion for, like, if you say provider name and you don't have Chocolatey installed, but you type C and hit tab, it still picks it up because it grabs the manifest off the web that we can add new providers at any time.
Oh, okay, that's really cool.
What
would that be like? Off of get package, I guess would be one example. So you get package dash provider name.
Yeah, if you can do get package. More importantly, if you do find package or install package, and then you type dash provider space and hit tab, it'll cycle through all the providers that are known.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And so
I see Bootstrap. It's no longer hidden, man.
Oh, well, so Bootstrap, it'll show you the things when you're tabbing through them, but it won't. So if you do a get package, and they're not truly hidden. The purpose for that is they're actually designed for automation and not for so much interactive use. But if you explicitly say it, it'll show it.
Neat. So I'm downloading the NuGet provider right now.
Yeah, so it does that on the fly, and it lets you use them. And so the great part about that is that, we control the little list of package providers. So as other people write them, we're going to be able to add more on the fly. And so everybody starts getting a lot more functionality. So, there's one for Python modules being written right now. One of our community guys is doing a Python one. and people volunteer to do stuff for PHP and other languages and whatnot. And the great part is the more we add in these things, the better it all becomes.
That is pretty slick. So now, when PowerShell first came out, I remember people were trying to work with installers and kind of, for example, list the software that's installed on your system. And it turned into a recipe where you had to know the right registry keys. You had to walk this registry key, that, because it wasn't all in one place.
Right.
I guess you've kind of solved that, haven't you?
That is exactly what we're trying to solve. So OneGet's three things that it wants to solve is discovery. I want to find software. Installation. I want to put it on the disk. And inventory. And to depending on who I talk to, one of those things is way more important than the other two. But to me, they're all extremely important. And inventory is so important. And the trouble is that nothing right now, if I said, show me all the software you have in your system. Oh, add, remove programs. Show me all the Python modules. Oh, well, it doesn't show them. Why not? Because it doesn't show them. And so this is the problem that I want to solve, is making sure that everything goes through at least everything can be connected through one common interface so that we can actually get reliable inventory. Because if you've got a piece of software and it's written in Java and it's on your system, but it wasn't installed with an installer, it was Xcopy deployed or whatever, there's no way that inventory right now is picking that stuff up. And so if that piece of software has a critical bug in it that needs to be patched, but you don't know you have it, then what are you going to do? And so this is what's really big with the government types. I've actually been in meetings with the NSA and NIST and stuff like that, and they're freaking out because they've got thousands of these servers, but they don't got any way of knowing if something's going to get owned on them.
Yeah, so using some recent examples of well-publicized hacks, like Heartbleed, for example. If you had a list of package names which included SSL, then you could conceivably just kind of scan for it in a very prescriptive way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so that's so we're going to have a couple of PowerShell or a couple of providers which their job is just to do scanning of things that they can find. And so they won't be so much a package manager as a software inventory manager. And then so one of the things that this allows us to do is provide universal inventory data in a format that's standardized. And so the standard that we're going to settle on here is an ISO standard called SWIDTag, which is for software identity tagging. And I joined that ISO group actually last fall, and we went through and rebuilt their schema for their software identity tags, because their previous schema was just terrible. It was built by somebody who didn't know XML. And in my opinion, a good schema is one built by somebody who hates XML, and I really hate XML. So yes, and that's our goal with that.
So let me go back. There was a couple questions I wanted to make sure I got here. So let's see. What is open source? Are all these parts of OneGet open source? Or is only some of it?
So 100% of the code that I am writing for OneGet is open source. So all the stuff that's going to be in Box is already open sourced. There is nothing. It's possible that people can provide a package manager that's not open source. It's certainly possible. I don't say that everything in the universe has to be power source or open source, but everything that ships in Box and Windows is definitely open source. Because the great part is you can download the code, you can rebuild it, you can add something in, away you go.
Awesome. And you're hosted on GitHub. GitHub/OneGet, I think it is. Yes. GitHub/OneGet. All right, cool. Let's see, another question here. So, and this question is about PowerShell Get, but I think it's going to be relevant to your expertise as well. So we'll just roll with it. Will PowerShell Get eventually support a system-wide list of sources? So, like, if you have a company and you want to establish what the defaults are, going to OneGet terminology, I guess we're talking about package providers.
Well, no. So those are package sources. I think they're talking about. So different repositories.
Define the difference
so you can
there.
say you have some of those. Sorry.
So define the difference. I guess that's. I guess the PowerShell gallery would be the single public repository that that's kind of now.
Right. So,
but there could be many.
Yes. Yeah. So a package source is a repository, a gallery, a directory of things, something that has a source for packages. right? So I've got a lot of packages over here. It is a package source. So OneGet and PowerShell Get, or so PowerShell Get and NuGet and Chocolatey all support having a they all support having repositories,
like
any repositories you want, and they can be a directory or they can use the NuGet server, and that's what's running PowerShellGallery.com. And so, yeah, absolutely, you can already, I believe, you can set up your own without issue.
So would there be? Is it? I mean, what if you wanted to establish a list of approved repositories for one or many of these providers? Is that a case that you've thought of?
That is a case that we thought of, where somebody says, "Oh, in an enterprise, we only want you to be able to talk to these ones." I'm resource limited, and so I got to knock off features one at a time at this point. I think that functionality where we say, "Here's how you in an enterprise have, these sources already pre-configured," stuff like that. We're going to get there. It may not be done by the time the Windows 10 ships, but as we're moving to a very rapid monthly deployment of all of this stuff, we'll get there. Absolutely. And some of the things is it's not just about sources that you want. It's not just that you want a particular set of sources. You might want to make sure that people only install packages from places you approve of. Sure. And so we're looking at some notions of how do you determine whether something is trustworthy or not. And we're getting some pretty complicated concepts in there, and I think the trick is going to be making it so that it is easy to understand.
So I know that you can sign packages, like an MSI package or any binary. Can you re-sign one? Like, would it make sense to say only approve packages that have been signed by something in our root CA or our corporate CA or something like that?
Right. So the answer is yes. It's technically possible to re-sign a package like that. What would probably be more appropriate is that you produce a supplementary SWID tag for a piece of software, and it's got a manifest, and you point to what it's got in it, and then you sign that, and you say you can only use packages that you have a signed manifest for, or something like that, which gives you an alternative way of having signed package information. Okay. But absolutely, that is the notion there. Now, in the short run, OneGet is pretty darn limited in how it specifies whether something is trusted. Right now, it's is the source trusted? Yes. Okay, there you go. In the long run, we actually want to have the ability to have this notion of a pluggable a trustworthiness part in OneGet, so that in your local world you can say, oh, I want to make sure that packages that are run through this are quote unquote trustworthy, and that might involve talking to a reputation system. It might be looking for certain signature validation and whatnot, or whatever.
And if you're in a domain, maybe implicitly it trusts something that the domain trusts through some discovery mechanism.
Absolutely, and so that's all going to be pluggable so that you can choose how that works.
Okay, that would be cool. So what about SCCM and other configuration management tools? How do you see those working along with OneGet?
Well, my assumption would be that SCCM and whatnot will eventually be able to leverage what OneGet's doing. The trouble with building something so fast is that, of course, somebody doesn't want to take a dependency on it all that badly until it's ready to be used. But I can't see, we're talking with these people. We're talking with people in SCCM and System Center and other parts of the company as well. We're talking to so many people inside the company these days. And ideally, everything will end up going that way, because nobody really wants to solve this problem. I think I'm the only person who steps up and goes, hey, I really do want to solve this problem, because everybody else is like, oh, we need this, we need this, we need this, and who the hell wants to do that? And so, yeah, in the long run, we should be able to see all of these things plug into that, because OneGet's a lower level thing, right? We're not going to provide no fancy GUI or nothing like that, because there's lots of things we need to plug into.
There's already GUIs for many of these things anyway.
All right, and so SCCM is kind of, you could consider it to be the higher level, quote unquote GUI, or the way that you'd want something done. One of the package types that has come up that Jeffrey wanted me to build was an SCCM package provider. So people who've already packaged stuff with SCCM could install that through OneGet.
Well, I think the advantage of that would be in an environment where you've got distributed package sources. So, you want to install from your SCCM server that's on your same LAN, rather than pulling this package across the internet or across the WAN from your data center, that sort of thing. So I think that's a big advantage that you have with leveraging SCCM in that way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's already done the work. Type of problem.
Yeah, and they've already done the work to make it so that you can install stuff. So just make sure it happens. Which is, it's great because OneGet is, I don't care how weird your package manager is. We'll plug it in, no problem.
So let's see. There's another question here about OSS licensing concerns. Is it kosher to have a GPL licensed provider loaded with the Apache licensed OneGet core?
Well, sure it is. So plugins have always been, no matter GPL'd, aside from the ultra paranoid out there, there's nothing that says you can't load GPL'd software on a non-GPL'd system. This is no different. I can't see why that would be a big deal. I like Apache personally because it's great for being able to use it anywhere you want. You don't run into weird situations like this. But if somebody does make a GPL provider and it works right and it passes all the tests, then I'll make sure it ends up in the list. Why not?
So what versions of PowerShell is or will be OneGet compatible with?
So OneGet. The code that I'm writing is all compatible with at least PowerShell back to PowerShell 2.
Nice.
Or not PowerShell 2, PowerShell 3.
Okay.
Yeah, PowerShell 3. I was going to go for PowerShell 2, but then it turned out to be something. And it's possible I could still get it to work on PowerShell 2.
Well, I think Joel's doing that. I think we recall that Joel's provider actually does support PowerShell version 2.
Joel Bennett.
Yes, They met.
I'm sure
there was a meeting.
There was a meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I will have to. I'll have to look into that to see exactly if.
I don't remember the details.
Doing that's PowerShell 3 requires PowerShell 3.
Brain.
Right now, we're .NET 4 required. That's why right now, because PowerShell 2 was not .NET 4, didn't require .NET 4, and. There's no way I'm going back to .NET 3.5 or 2 or whatever, and it's just, no, thank you. So I'm going to keep it to, I think I'm going to keep it to PowerShell 3 for the time being.
Is there a DSC resource that leverages OneGet yet to do installations?
There was somebody, now this is the weird part, is that somebody for the preview that went out at Build, somebody in Microsoft, I think it was the DSC guys, had written a DSC provider for OneGet. And I didn't find out about it until like 2 days before code freeze, because some guy shows up at my desk and he goes, "Hey, can you help me get this working?" And I'm like, "Sure, who are you? What is this? What the?" And I'm looking at this code and I'm going, "What the hell is this thing? Hey, wait a minute." And I thought it was pretty darn cool. And then I don't know what happened to that. We're actually looking to figure out who's got to own that. The DSC guys are just way overloaded. And so what I think we'll probably end up doing is that, there's one in the PowerShell. Is that the PowerShell gallery?
Yeah. Just put a link in the chat room.
Oh, okay, cool.
OneGet it's the name.
Yes. So you should be able to install that one. And you know what? I honestly haven't played with it much, but I don't believe I broke anything since the original days of that stuff. And I know that it was calling OneGet via the command or via the commandlets. So if it's not working, we should probably fix that. And I think as time goes on, we're trying to get all of those things that they're publishing, these DSC resources, to be open source so that people can contribute to them.
Okay. Yeah.
There's all kinds of cool stuff on PowerShell Gallery already.
Yeah, the GIST provider that Doug had put together. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to install that right now. That's my new hobby, by the way, is installing the software in a just-in-time fashion while talking about it on the podcast. and sometimes it involves spinning up virtual machines or other cloud services. Yes, it is becoming a trend. Interesting. I guess I just installed it. Install a module named GIST provider. Okay. Now what do I do? I guess it would show up as a package provider?
You have to restart PowerShell in order for it to show up.
Okay. I'll do that.
And then when you get package provider, it should say GIST. Just be forewarned, if you don't actually register a source, it's going to you're going to get rate limited when you do talk to it. Because the GitHub APIs are terribly rate limited. So I was demoing that provider. I was just ad hoc demoing it in front of a bunch of people at Microsoft the other day, and ran into rate limiting right when I was using it. I'm like, oh, okay.
So how do you register a source?
Well, you go add or register package source, and then actually I don't know. I didn't actually get around to registering one. But you should go register package source / provider gist. Probably just type in then your username, and then your username and your password, I guess. And then it should store that. And then when you use it and talk to then you can just use -source, and you can say any other user on GitHub, and it should just work. I think that's what he did.
Okay, neat. Yeah, I'll have to play with that. Cool. All right, so let's see if there are any other questions related to the podcast. Yeah, GP Duck was saying that PowerShell Git appears to save the list of package sources in a per-user profile directory.
Sorry, what was that? So
the package sources, where's that stored? Is there similar to profiles, provider have a machine location?
Each individual provider is responsible for storing their own package sources. So OneGet doesn't record any of this stuff. OneGet is essentially stateless in that regard. It doesn't actually store any of that data. So each individual package provider is responsible for that. And right now, I believe that actually I don't know what the PS-Get does or PowerShell Get does, and I don't know what GIST does. I think he does it based on user. And I want to say that my Chocolatey and NuGet providers are both per user right now, but PS-Get app local data path blah blah blah.
Okay, but the point is that it could be different for each provider.
Yeah, it's absolutely different, right? Because we don't want to replicate the information or try to have some goofy thing on there. And so I said, no, OneGet's not going to store any of these things. It's just going to merely allow access to what you've already got. And so the Chocolatey provider, for example, stores in the same chocolatey.config file, and so does the NuGet one.
Gotcha.
And so as we go on, we might help drive the innovation in some of these things and say, hey, you should have a user one and a system one for those that don't, but it's not a requirement.
So can you use the commandlets to install software on remote machines, or would you need to connect to those machines explicitly?
So right now, I believe you'd need to connect to the thing explicitly. We don't really have a way of doing that. Like, there's no way to talk to OneGet on the other side without it doing through the commandlets. Mm-hmm. And so really you need to connect to the thing on the other side, and that's probably for the short to midterm the solution on that sort of thing. And we'll eventually get the ability to manipulate these things more. I think it all depends on how things go in the next 6 to 8 months as to what the next set of features that we're tackling is and whatnot. Because most of the time I go to the community, I'm going, hey, this is the direction I'm going. Anybody got a problem with that? And what do you think? Or is there something that we're missing that you really badly want? And we got to balance all that stuff. I think that after we get through, the basic, very minimal core things that we're doing, one of my goals is to make sure that we can take pull requests for OneGet. So, hey, if you want to have,
that'll be a big deal.
Stuff. Oh, it's huge. It's going to be, that's why if I'm not making
somebody that was not being done yet for anything that ships in the box in Windows.
That is not being done yet for anything that ships in box in Windows.
Okay.
And
all right, so that is a really big deal.
July, I would like that to change, because there's no way I want to, the only, so the rules inside have changed. It's not that it's not permitted. It's just that here's the things you need to do. And I'm like, okay, I don't have time for that right now, but we're coming back and we're going to be talking about this soon enough, because there's no point in not doing it.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so the goal is to make sure.
That's kind of the last barrier, though. I mean, that was, even after people were very friendly to open source, I kept hearing, Yeah, we love open source, but we're not going to be able to take pull requests. Or if we can, it's going to have to be some separate project, and it certainly can't ship in the box.
It'll ship in the box. so if it's another place that I have to actually go in first, I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me anymore. Lawyers don't scare me.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll still be working in Microsoft in 6 months.
I'm sure I will.
So, and there's another request here to kind of think about how to do trusted sources of packages in the enterprise. So Dave White is talking about making these things policy friendly.
So yeah, policy friendly is another one of our longer term goals. And yeah, I really hate I really despise XML in a way that's just I hate it. And what's worse is I hate crappy XML, and things like some of these config things are just terrible. And so yeah, there is some goals to make these things policy friendly. Ideally, we could actually do that through something like DSC. So if you had a set of configurations that you wanted to push down, you could do that with tools that talk to the box with DSC. So if we can get the DSC provider for OneGet all nice and tasty, then that sort of stuff can be pushed down. I think DSC is a better way to do that because I think it's a great way to go. But absolutely, got to make this stuff policy friendly. We got to make it so that this stuff is easy to work with. And for a long time, I really get rubbed the wrong way with a lot of stuff that Microsoft does that's got these, hard to configure stuff, or you got to do this, that, and the other things. Like, no, it's got to be stupidly simple. And that's my goal.
I like that goal.
Yeah, it is. Well, in the longer run, I was just going to say that I do want to make sure that we can provide alternative ways of accessing this stuff remotely, whether it's via, WMI or whatever as well.
So, Jonathan, help me out. What was I about to say?
Sorry, man. I can't read your mind from here. It only works short range.
I know what I was going to say. So we've talked about a few kind of feature requesty type things that your answer has been, medium term. Are there things that, the immediate term that you can kind of talk to us about that's about to come out, those kinds of things?
Well, so the immediate term, so I made a deliberate sacrifice about 8 months ago. I said I will code as fast as I can, but if somebody wants to make sure this stuff works, they'd better come up with some idea about how we're going to test this and start working on that. And I said, because there's no way I'm going to be able to get through testing until the end of the year at the very least. And so guess what? We're now at the end of the year, and I've got a test deficit like no tomorrow. So the first thing that I have to do is at this point in time is shore up my test deficit, because it's terrible. I'm relying on PowerShell got a great test suite, and that's what we're relying on to know that OneGet's not a chunk of garbage at this point. And so the first thing is that we're going to do that. The next things that I'm looking at, and actually I'm having to reprioritize just today. I think I need to get this stuff working on the I don't even know what the official name for this thing is, the smaller version of the .NET CLR that ships in some of these smaller that's for the smaller server footprint stuff.
Mini, micro, tiny framework?
I don't even know. Yes, I don't even know what they're calling it anymore. They change the name every day. Anyway, so the trouble is, of course, there's this Core CLR or something like that, and you can see some of the stuff on some of the Project K stuff on GitHub. So I know it can't be that important for them to not be talking about it. So, but at this point, no, it's a very, 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 very tiny framework, and it's like you took away all the good stuff. So I got to do some changes to make that happen. Again, it's not going to show any new features, unfortunately. After that gets done, and so that's going to probably take me to sometime in February-ish, and then we're going to go for update package, which is something everybody wants, but to me that's all client-side stuff, because it's basically find me the packages that are updates to the packages that I already have, type of thing. And then after that, it's about a lot of the stuff around SWID tags. So being able to do publishing and some stuff around discovery of software based on the SWID tag concept, and I'll probably publish an awful lot more information about that in the new year. I really have to sit down and explain that really well. But it's going to be pretty good. And then past that, that's going to take us, between that and some small features. I think it's going to be a lot of little things. Oh, the other thing we're going to do is split this thing out so it installs without, so you can install it without, have an official install without WMF5. So we'll actually have an official build. Okay. That's
gotcha.
All on its own. And then I don't know. We have a weekly meeting every week. If you go to oneget.org/weekly/meeting.html, we have a weekly meeting where we talk about everything that's coming up and what we're working on next, and if somebody wants to go who do stuff. The other thing is we really want to get some providers built. So today I was working more on the provider SDK stuff, and basically it'll be here, fork this project, fill in the blanks, and away you go.
I didn't know there was a OneGet. Wait a second. What is the website again?
Oh, if you go to here, I'll punch it into the it's OneGet.org and then weekly. So you go there every week. We have a community meeting, and
okay, cool.
You can just you can show up, ask questions, find out everything you need to know. If you say, a lot of times I'll bring up some design issues or stuff that I'm working on right then. Last couple of weeks we've been talking about, last week was about testing. There was about, because we've been looking at doing all the stabilization work, and so we're filling out our test framework with Pester is what we're using for our scenario tests, and so we should have some tests for Chocolatey and for NuGet by the end of the week. And then I'm, right now I got to finish the SDK, the provider SDK, so that I can build some test providers. I don't want to do this twice, so I got to sit down and do this in the right order. But yeah, we have a nice little meeting. We talk about all this stuff. So if you want to know more, just show up any Friday at 10 a.m. on 10 a.m. Pacific.
Oh, okay, very cool. So we'll put links in the show notes to the GitHub repo and several other things you've mentioned. Anywhere else that we should send people to learn more about what you're doing?
GitHub is the best place, or my Twitter feed, or the PS OneGet Twitter feed. That's where I usually keep the information. Twitter is it's where I tend to yammer about exactly what I'm doing at a particular time, and that's the fastest way to find me. A lot of times I'm starting to hang out in the PowerShell channel on Freenode here. Yeah,
awesome.
Pretty much those.
Yeah, I saw you there. And the Twitter handle is it is not Feather Cowboy.
It's not Feather Cowboy. No, okay. That's a whole different thing.
That's Garrett late at night. Never mind. Awesome. So Garrett, I have one more question for you before we let you go. And this is a question that we ask everybody who comes on the PowerScripting podcast. If you could be a superhero or have a superpower, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Take your time. This is an important question. We need you to get this right.
Well, I pride myself on being right more often than I'm wrong. So I'd really like the ability to just give my past self more information as to what I'm doing or something when I'm about to make a bad decision.
So you want to?
Because a lot of times,
what do we call that?
Sorry?
Think in the past. Send messages to yourself in the past.
Well, basically, being precognitive in the other. If you look at it from the other direction, it's basically like, oh, I'm not going to do that because that's going to turn out really, really bad. When you're doing stuff that and especially I'm working on stuff, and it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I mean, so one of the examples is I've rewritten the plugin engine in OneGet 3 times, and I didn't break I didn't break binary compatibility because of it, but it was like completely different, and it's like, oh, I really wish I hadn't have done it that way. Oh, and I really wish I hadn't have done it that way. Yeah, my hindsight is 20/20, but my foresight's only about 50/50. So I think fixing that would be a major concern.
Nice. Yeah, I think that Yeah, that would be a useful power. Galaxy
That's-
Quest. Now we're working on Galaxy Quest comparisons. That was a good movie, by the way. All right. Well,
and if you
Garrett,
look
I
through
want
my
to thank
code,
you very
sometimes you'll
much
find
for
stuff.
hanging out with us and spend some time and telling us all about OneGet.
Hey, no problem. Anytime, guys.
Awesome. So what happens next, Garrett, is that Jonathan does some editing, and then the audio portion will be published on the website in a week or so. And we will have the live stream will actually be live like immediately because it's just a streaming YouTube thing. But we call that the behind the scenes version because it's not edited. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Thanks a lot. And
thank you
thanks
very
for
much.
interacting with
Hey, no
everybody
problem.
on
You guys have a good
the
day.
chat room and stuff. All right, you too.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
So I didn't know that the Scott Moss was with us here in the chat room.
That's cool.
Hey, Scott.
So I was wondering if that was Scott when he hopped in.
Why did you know from the number guest 74842?
No, he showed up as Scott just briefly, and then it
Oh,
changed.
okay. I guess he's new at IRC. I didn't see that. Now I'm going back and scrolling up and looking at the
Yeah, I
joints.
think he said, "Hello,
Scott.
ladies."
Ah, yeah, you're right. And then he undid it. Huh? Yeah, I see that now. Do.
So, have you hacked your Fire TV stick or anything?
What? What?
You-
I didn't know that you could do that yet.
Apparently, you can sideload apps to it.
Well, you can get stuff from the Amazon market,
Right.
but no, I've not played with sideloading it
Or
yet.
maybe it's just the Fire TV you can sideload apps to. I must do more research.
I don't know what the difference is, but this one is pretty capable.
Yeah, it is.
It may not have.
I really like the interface.
Yeah, I do too. When did you get yours?
Saturday. Is it Saturday or Sunday? Saturday or Sunday.
Okay, cool.
Your audio just went away.
No, that was me typing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I just was responding, and I couldn't do too many things at the same time there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, about the Fire TV stick. So yeah, I got mine. Maybe the same day you did. Then maybe. Yeah, I think I might have gotten mine Saturday as well. Did you see my my little review that I put up?
Yes,
Find it.
I did. Yeah, on
I'll
Facebook.
link to it for others. Yes, I did, and I pasted it into Tumblr as well. So the there was a bunch of huge hangs and lags,
I have
and
not
I think
seen
pretty
that.
much if you install a big app, I think what happens is that either during download or during the install phase, everything slows down a lot.
Oh, okay.
So it could be that you've only installed smaller apps, so that you know the any lag was just not as noticeable.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
I've really installed this like Netflix and Pandora and Quell and not
Yeah.
much else.
Go grab there's one it's like some Disney Castle of Illusion, I want to say it's called. It's nothing super special. I mean it's actually quite cool for running on a stick. You know, I mean you look at the amount of hardware that is in that thing.
Right.
Rather impressive for that reason. But the game itself is just it's like a little platformer. But anyway, I would be curious to know if you experience a lag after you tell it to install.
Okay.
So it would be interesting if the same thing happens to you. But I haven't played with it in a couple days. I need to play with it some more. It is pretty neat. I like it. I was concerned though because of the hangs.
Oh, yeah.
But if somebody isn't doing a lot of that, then they might not ever notice.
Oh, Minion Rush is on here. I didn't realize
We're
until
in front of it
today
right now.
that you could go into you can go to the Amazon website and
Mhm.
just look at Fire TV apps, all models.
Does it show up in your devices, I guess?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, that makes sense. Your account, where the devices go? I don't know where the devices. There it is. Your Android apps and devices.
So it's
cool.
not compatible with this Fire TV.
House Fire TV. All right, cool. Yeah, I noticed that some apps need a controller.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Fire tablet apps, Fire TV apps. Okay, I see what you're talking about now. That's cool. I mean, of course, it's still the Amazon market. Now, you're supposed to be able to cast, or whatever the right word is there, stuff as well, right?
What do you mean their stuff?
Like you can stream things from your phone.
Yes.
Have you done that?
No.
Me neither.
I'm going to send Zen Pinball HD to my Fire TV. Click. I love that.
Yes, I do too. I'm going to do that too, Jonathan, just because you did it. How's Fire TV? Done. There. So there. Let's see. Oh, I'm getting a Nexus 6. I think that's what I decided to do.
Oh, nice.
Probably we'll just get it the next week or so. If I get it early, then I would want to open it, and it really is supposed to be a Christmas present, so I should just not get it early.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
The Fire TV, though, was more like an experiment. A $19 experiment.
Yeah, exactly. The main thing I want to be able to do is watch like network TV stuff, stream it to my TV. Because we got rid of the normal cable stuff. So like if I want to watch Arrow or something, I'll go to the CW website and stream it from there.
Okay.
And I'd love to be able to easily just stream it to the TV. But when the Chromecast stuff, it's a little bit laggy unless it supports it natively, which they, a few things do, but that doesn't. So.
What doesn't? You mean the Fire TV?
No, I mean the CW website does not support casting to Chromecast.
Okay.
Like when you cast to Chromecast, it actually reestablishes the connection from your Chromecast, so it's going directly, rather than
I gotcha.
Sending it from your machine to the.
So you're just sending the instruction to go stream from this other source.
Yeah.
So that it's actually not going through your device. Which would be the most efficient way to do it. You want to distribute that work out.
Yeah.
Interesting. But do some websites do that? I understand how an app would do that, but I never thought about how
YouTube
a website do that.
Does that. There are other things too that if you install the Chromecast, the Google Cast app into Chrome, then it'll just show up on a video. There'll be like a little Chromecast icon, and you just click on it, and it says, what do you want to send it to? You send it to your Chromecast. Okay.
Yeah, I had not played with that either. So, but I guess the question is can you do Chromecast directly to the Fire TV stick, or must you use a separate app?
You know what? It actually, I think the last time I tried to do it, both the Roku and the Fire TV showed up. Let me see. If I go to YouTube and just pick something 2013 unplugged. Yeah,
mine doesn't show.
If I do play on TV, it says Cache YouTube 2, Jonathan's Fire TV, Roku streaming player. So I have those options. Like if in the corner, in the bottom right corner of the YouTube window, that play on TV, do you see that option?
I do now because I just installed Cast. Huh. And it says Cast to BDP 2105. I don't even know what that is. I'm thinking that's probably a Blu-ray disc player. That's probably what BDP is.
But you're right.
But I don't... Interesting. Okay. But yeah, I don't see the Fire TV in there.
Maybe it'll show up
weird.
eventually. I don't know why it shows up for me, but it does.
That's weird. Okay. We'll have to do more research on this. I mean, I don't even know that I would need it or do it. I don't know. I haven't really figured out because I mean we still have a TV subscription. So
you have a DVR and that's all you need.
No, I don't DVR.
Okay.
We occasionally, seldomly do on-demand stuff from Comcast. Not that often. See, I don't watch TV, so like this is not a need that I personally have to solve for. So the only TV that I watch is right now I'm watching Doctor Who with Stacy, and we'll stream an episode.
Yeah, I saw you watch Blink.
Yes, that was awesome.
That's one of the few episodes that I've watched. My son's like, "You have to watch this." Okay.
It is really good. But we're doing that with Amazon Prime, instant video thingy. And that's the only thing I'm watching right now. And we'll catch like 1 or 2 episodes a week or whatever.
I'm really liking The Flash.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a good show. It's not as dark as Arrow. It's more lighthearted.
Hold on. Now I got to check my email because I don't know what it is that MI Green is talking about. So hold up. Let me look. Where? Okay, so I guess I need to figure out what this is. I don't know about you, Jonathan, but my email is a bit of a cesspit.
Oh yeah, big
personally. Yeah, it's
inbox.
I don't check it.
I find inbox helpful.
I do too. I do like inbox a lot. And if anybody in the chat room wants an invite for inbox, it is good stuff. But yeah, I just don't check it that much. It's just not as important as it used to be.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of email anymore.
Yeah.
I haven't been for a while. I prefer to communicate in other ways.
Okay, we'll figure that out. Okay, well, I guess I should be headed on. I'll paste a couple more links in the show notes.
Okay. All right, well, good
Thanks,
night, everybody. We're actually recording next week, right? We're going to be live?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We have dude who did the... If you Google Zen and DSC, I think... No, that definitely doesn't work. Zen, maybe Zen app? Maybe Citrix? I'll get it eventually. Anyway, I think you see where I'm going. Citrix DSC. Wow, I have to... Looks like there's a Citrix DSC that is not desired state configuration. All right, how about this? blogcitrix.com/tag/PowerShell. I think will get you to the right sorts of places.
I found it.
Okay, cool. Anyway, that guy.
Chris Wittek? Or
Nope.
did he just write about it?
Nope. I'm scrolling down. Brian Elert. I'll paste another one. So check out the one that I pasted there. Brian Elert is the guy who we will be having on.
Okay, cool.
And
yeah, I've actually read some of his blog posts on
yeah?
DSC. Uh-huh.
Cool.
Yeah,
so
I've run
he's
across him.
the dude. He is a Hyper-V guy. He knows a lot about Hyper-V, and he's Hyper-V MVP. And he's been doing a lot with DSC as well.
Apparently we have more than one guest lined up for next week.
Wait, what? Okay, so that explains that. Okay, let me check my calendar. Hold on. I don't think I wrote it down. Okay, thank you, Michael Green. Let me check that. Michael, I did try to DM you something in IRC. I don't know if you saw it. If you're just using the web client, you may not have seen it. But I asked you what was your email address so I could do a search or something. Let me see. I am in the inbox and I'm searching. Oh yeah. Okay, it's coming back to me now. And yes, that was an email that Inbox tells me I snoozed 1 month ago. Lo and behold, I did say the 18th. You are correct. Okay, so now I just have to think logistics for a moment. And I do want to have you guys, and he just quit IRC. Oh well, I guess I'm not talking to him anymore. Are we on, Jonathan?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay. And oh well. Hold on. I'm glad I have a mute switch on this headset because I just totally sneezed all over the place. Yes, apparently I drank too much at the MVP Summit. You guys know how wild I am. Okay. All right, so what do we do? Michael Green, because they already confirmed the date, so I got to go with them.
Okay.
So I will reschedule other dude for probably January. Sure.
Yep.
And I don't remember what Michael was up to. I want to say that he was one of the people that the Snover was saying to be sure to catch.
Yeah, he's been hanging out in the chat room lately.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's back. He's showing up in the chat room again.
Yep. Okay. Ugh, that's not good, Sepik. That's sort of really bad, actually. All right. Yeah, I will do that now so that I don't forget. I'll fix the schedule around. And I guess I will talk to you later.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.